Memories come in hot flashes. A face, a place, a symbol, a title. Textbooks, a serum, a tomb. Everything comes so fast it's overwhelming, and you can't focus enough to understand any of it. Everything you remember is so potent, strong, it feels impossible to forget, and yet you did. The pain comes back, slowly washing over you. Eventually, it feels like you're drowning in information, in a deathly reality that you can't believe that you forgot, that hurts far more than you thought possible. Sudden flashes of pain at the start seem so distant as this new type of pain bubbles up to the surface. Your entire being submerged, and you feel your skin burning as wave after wave washes over you, and all you can see is a cold, unrelenting stare of your master as you relive your death. To relive such an event is far from pleasant, and your consciousness shifts back as if your soul was knocked from your body and you lay motionless in the void. Everything is swirling around you, and only just now can you start to make sense of anything. Feelings, emotions, memories, they all flow through you again, and it slowly becomes clear. You're walking through a hallway, a stone corridor, a mass of rocks seeming like an endless prison, and yet, for some reason, it's comforting, as if this place has some meaning to you, a vague sense of home. You blink your eyes and wonder if you're back in your body or still dreaming, swimming through memories as you're whisked away down a plain hallway. The empty voices pound into the back of your skull, and though you can't hear them, you can't help but not recognize them. Your co-workers, allies, friends. You fall back into the void and allow the information to consume you before you take a solid position, finding a vague sense of foundation before you force the information to become orderly as it presents itself to you. Your days start with walking these powerful hallways. Every memory seems to contain them, and it's honestly a relief to be back here. You can't remember everything, nothing before your time at this place. Not yet, anyways. The stone, the green garments, the coarse wood, the magical elements, the books. All these things are here, and it's all coming back to you, slowly filling in the gaps, smoothing over the empty banks of your memory that were swept clean as the paths reform themselves to retell what you remember. You don't remember how you got here or why, though most of that wasn't there to begin with. That information was never clear or explained, and the uneasiness of trust and concern creeps in once more as you experience this journey for a second time. Place to work, place to sleep, a face and then more. Snippets of time spent working on something, studying a great many things, and experiencing the strange experiments, even the extravagant sources of knowledge, the tomes, the libraries, all seem to be secondary to the feeling of warmth when you look into someone's eyes. You see hardened individuals, all stern and scared. Yet when they smile, you feel a sense of excitement, relief, and contentment. Is this joy? Love? These people are more than just strangers, they're family. You've worked and lived with them so long, it's hard to think of them anything less. Donovan, the determined man who always seemed distant and walled off, even compared to the others, always seemed to be strong, though, enough to deal with anything. He looks young, middle-aged maybe, but you can't help feel as though he was almost twice your age at the time. His eyes were always clear, hard, and alert. His duty was protection and security, but for what or who you don't recall. Whenever something new or dangerous happened, he was the first to deal with it, like a filter between the outside world and down here. You never knew much else about him, what he liked, or if he did anything other than work tirelessly. But even though all the times you remember seeing his stern face stare off into the distance, you can't help but feel his smile that one time he turned your way. Mary, a young girl, yet still older than you, seemed to relate to Donovan in some way, though you're not sure how. She always felt like the younger sister of his, though they looked nothing alike. Her soft copper hair bounced playfully, while his short brown hair was always still and cut straight. She never seemed to have anything specific to do, no job or explicit utility, but was always there in every scene, just being a part of it all and helping anyone and anything she could. Thomas was always a mystery. He seemed to come and go without much of a whisper, but one day you caught him singing, and since then, the two of you had a sense of kinship. He felt free to perform in front of you, sharpening weapons and crafting gadgets as he sang softly in your workspace. From then on, he always seemed to be in the way, though you never mind, and even enjoying his presence, like a pleasant bird on your window distracting you from your pursuit into texts and vials. Raquel was a scary one. She always seemed to be over your shoulder or staring from a distance, watching you and everyone else with a judging eye. Her usefulness could not be denied, though. Many times you can recall her jumping in with lightning-fast reflexes to protect someone from a falling bookcase or an experiment gone wrong. She'd always sacrifice her body to protect others, though muttering irritation from a distance. Her care and concern for others was strange to understand, as she always mocked and reprimanded people. Her criticism beyond that of simply concerned individual. There was always something for her to disagree with and lecture, though she tended to do so from a distance, as if preferring not to voice her opinions directly in hopes not to influence others too much. It was this behavior that drew you to confront her, causing her demeanor to change and even acknowledge you. Esmeralda was the dangerous one to look out for. It seemed as though everyone had some issue with her one way or another. Her rash and eager behavior caused many issues with the rest of the residents. The rules were in place for a reason, but her childlike desire for adventure led her to escaping often, pursuing trouble, and occasionally brought back to the safe haven. She was the wild card and black sheep of the family, while everyone else seemed hand-picked and selected for a specific reason due to their skills. Ezra always felt like the adopted child, if not for the head of the house taking a personal interest in her, like a favorite child. She would not have survived down here. She always seemed to respect the authority and experience that the old wizard had, and the two of them made a perfect team, like master and sidekick. She always had a soft spot for you, though, and often bursted into your life to check in on you, typically at the worst yet most opportune times, when you really needed her, didn't realize it. The person that took the most interest in you, though, was Rickton himself, the mastermind behind everything and leader of this ragtag group of elites. His vast knowledge of history and the arcane brought him to construct this group to begin with. He wasn't just powerful in abilities, but in spirit as well, taking control of many situations where any other mortal would have failed. His presence was always scary, terrifying even, and his demeanor was confusing, to say the least. His entire compound was carved to a specific design, yet you would often find him throwing tantrums and destroying things at random, yet demanding peace and perfection for everyone else. Being the newest member, you were always under scrutiny from the rest, yet Rickton himself found a very special interest in you. Slowly but surely you felt a sense of apprenticeship from him as you worked, partly due to your interest in pursuing knowledge and your grand ability to lead it. Many times you found yourself correcting someone else, even Rickton and his plans, if you found a particular drastic flaw. It was during these moments of rebellion that brought admiration from the rest as you stood your ground against Rickton, though usually led to more fits of rage from the troubled man. After a particular experiment where you had to stop Rickton before he even started, revealing crucial last-minute information that forecasted absolute failure for the procedure, he finally snapped. There was a brief moment where he was simply still, and you cowered before him for fear of a sudden outburst that was bound to happen, but it never came. This rare moment of serenity scared you even more than the towering figure, as he simply stepped away and collapsed wearily to a nearby seat. You two were alone in this lab, and as he removed the protective mask, you saw for the first time the face of a withered old man. He looked defeated and tired, as if he hadn't slept in actual years and was older beyond his normal lifespan. He never looked at you once, but slowly you found the courage to approach him, and he revealed his story to you. How he had failed to save someone when he was an avid adventurer, and though the roaming family had asked for his help, he felt in their debt and told them they could take anything they wished in place of their lost son. It wasn't until later that he realized that they had taken his son, and so he sought after them, following them through the dark forest and into the night where the monsters started to rise. He was trapped by a horde of undead, but fortunately one amongst them was intelligent and conversed with Rickton, enough to bestow a temporary warning against the creatures of the night and safe passage through the woods together with the rest. Upon catching up with the band of Vistani, Rickton demanded his son, but it was too late, and they informed him that they had given away his son to a vampire that ruled over the area. Perhaps in a brief lapse of judgment or fit of rage, Rickton relinquished his reins on the group of undead and simply stood by, allowing the zombies to feast on the family. Karma's effect was instantaneous, as a father cursed Rickton with an old Vistani ability, one that cannot be removed unless the caster chooses, so to perform such a rite upon death is irreversible. Rickton would always be surrounded by monsters, hate, destruction. Everything around him would surely be destroyed, and any bonds made lead to ruin. It was then that you realized why Rickton was so cold, distant, and full of hatred. He would keep everyone at a distance, especially the ones that he cared about, like his family down here. After this talk, you would observe a pattern in his tantrums, and a formula for his destructive nature. In order to control the plight around him that others would experience, Rickton would take it upon himself to enact the butchery of the workplace. By ensuring the devastation himself, he could be sure of the exact losses of property and equipment. It was only after he described his rise to monster hunting, after purging this world from the vampire that turned his son, along with piercing the same wooden stake through the heart of his own now monstrous son, as well, that he wiped his face and returned the cold steel to his face, sealing his ancient body within the walking tomb once more. It was this moment that your demeanor changed. These were the answers you needed all this time, and yet you felt as though you did not deserve them. You worked tirelessly, pursuing your work with new intensity that concerned the others. You couldn't be swayed from your investigation, researching everything known and eventually into rumors and mere legends of arcane abilities. Even before it was explained to you, it was clear how most of your work here was in pursuit of finding solutions to death and other cures of the various afflictions that inhabit this world. Therianthropy, vampirism, zombification, the list went on. But there was a vague similarity that was idiotic not to notice until now. The basic idea of lichdom is the only true way of maintaining hold of one's soul after death, typically by enacting and controlling one's own death. Usually, the body is sacrificed along with other bouts of energy to convert one's soul into a massive energy that can be controlled with a strong enough will. Temporary bodies and shells can be constructed and possessed. Even your own skeleton can be saved by grafting runes and jewels into it, but attempting to hold on to one's own living body is impossible, especially after natural body functions cease and decomposition takes hold. But what if the body could be changed? What if these transformative effects that you had been discovering cures for could actually pose as a solution to both of these problems? If the body could be saved upon binding the soul to the physical world, then a person could maintain living in their own body beyond normal life expectancy. Because the body would not be dying to the minor transformative effects, the soul would be not severed. At first, the others couldn't understand. Then they labeled you as insane, but slowly your intellect won them over. Richten typically stayed away from most experience and research when it involved working together with others for the sake of protecting both the experiment and the workers, but this project had all hands working together as a massive unit. It took longer than expected, but your calculations were never wrong and their project was reaching a close. The only question now would be who to test it on. No person or creature outside the group could be trusted, so it fell to one of you. Richten obviously volunteered first, being the one most in need of a new way to avoid aging and abhorring anyone else taking the risk. His request was denied, as it would be best to first test the project on someone who hadn't already experienced some other extraneous anti-aging effects. The subject needed a strong mind and a strong heart, not just physically, but clear duty that would not allow any chance of doubt, and a will powerful enough to hold everything together without losing their sanity. One by one, everyone was eliminated, until all eyes turned toward you. You, the one with the mind rivaled only by the legendary Richten himself. You were the youngest, with the healthiest body out of everyone, with your limited interaction with the cursed world outside. You, your drive to pursue this project to completion, proved a stronger will than anyone else here. You were the perfect candidate. There was never a doubt in your mind. Fear was never an option, and there was no chance of failure. It wasn't until you were trapped in that chamber, with strained supporting harnesses and equipment, then submerged in liquid, that you started to feel your heart racing. Everyone watched with anticipation as events started to unfold. And then the memories start to get fuzzy, distant, confusing, and lost. Something was happening you couldn't understand. Your perceivance of the world started to lessen as things shifted dramatically. Everything started to become an overwhelming blur. You watch as your friends struggle outside, trying in vain to do something to help. There was never a chance. Your reality burns hot, your skin begins to bubble, and your form twists and jerks violently. Your death was not a quick one, and the pain was incredible. The last thing you remember amongst the chaos was the cold expression of Richten's mask, as all he could do was watch.